Good morning. Welcome to the NBA Daily. Coming up, bad news for the Mavs and Kyrie Irving. So we got Christian Clark on at the end of the show to talk about it. The Lakers get another win, and LeBron is the Western Conference Player of the Month. So we're going to dig into that a little bit. And then the Suns were pathetic until they weren't. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Zena.
Morning, Dave.
Another show. We had a couple good games last night, but unfortunately, got a little bit of news, an update on Kyrie Irving. He's going to miss the rest of the season and likely a large portion of next year. Got a torn ACL. He injured the leg on Monday night, going up for a layup. Just something that, again, he's probably done 10 million times in his life. Freak occurrence. So yeah, Zena, he's going to be out for the year. The Mavs just completely snake bitten.
The list of everything that's happened to the Dallas Mavericks, particularly since Luka Doncic was traded, is surreal. Like it really feels as if the plague has descended upon them. And this is just another notch in that, but it's probably the biggest one. When you think about Kyrie Irving in the story of what this was supposed to be, of course, Luka's at the center, but Kyrie was that next big chapter. And then you add in Klay Thompson, and now all that's left is Klay. And there's something eerie about that when you think about what Klay Thompson went through towards the end of his time with the Warriors with his ACL tear and him being sidelined for a year. And now you've got Kyrie Irving also not being able to carry the torch on after Luka in Dallas. But it's heartbreaking overall for the story of the Dallas Mavericks. But I think, if anything, heartbreaking for Kyrie. Watching him take those last two free throws, thanking God. And I believe he's going through Ramadan right now as well. So he might also be fasting. There was something spiritual in that moment, as from him thanking God in the most vulnerable period of his, injury. It was just surreal. I just hope he gets better soon.
Yeah. The Mavericks, I really thought, the Luka trade didn't end their season. It just, I think, stunted their future.
Sure.
Kyrie's injury, that's a wrap. Not a wrap. LeBron James, his career, I think it has no end in sight.
Yeah.
He was named Western Conference Player of the Month yesterday, and he also, in the game and the win against the Pelicans, became the first NBA player to score 50,000 points combined, regular season and postseason. I mean, that's a number that's likely never going to be touched again, just when you consider the longevity of his career, 22 years. He also poured in. So I guess he has now 50,033 points because he had 34 points in the game, 8 rebounds, 6 assists. So, he's already ridiculous. On the way to 51,000, Zena.
That's actually, it's stupid. It's just it's ridiculous. And I'm happy you mentioned longevity because Jovan Buha also wrote about this accomplishment, and he mentioned the longevity. But the word that he used that's really real and I think underscored here is availability.
Yeah.
We do not talk enough about how much LeBron James has made himself available to even score those points out on the court over the course of his career. And also being able to see his career now, potentially at the twilight, him still playing in his prime, not only from a physical factor, right? We see him playing with the same vigor, the same just ferociousness on the court that he had when he was in his prime. We're also seeing this elevated level of cerebral play and tactical play and methodical play. And so combining the two of them at the age of 40, hitting 50,000 points, and it's still going. We are still seeing these Herculean efforts night in, night out from LeBron. We're so lucky to be able to watch something like this.
Yeah. So in February, he averaged 29 points a game, shot 55% from the field, 44% from three, 10 and a half rebounds, 7 assists, a steal. He had 2 40-point games, which is now the most for any player over the age of 40 because Michael Jordan only did it once. And the Lakers were 9-2. And so a lot of this was also before Luka even got there. By the way, Luka had 30 and 15 in the game last night for,
casual,
since we're talking about the game. Yeah. But, LeBron's legitimately made a strong case for all NBA, in my opinion, all NBA first team, not just all NBA. I think all NBA first team. And they're the 2 seed. They keep winning. I think he's going to be on the MVP ballot for a lot of people, and rightfully so. I mean, he has kept this team above water when Anthony Davis was hurt. Obviously, this whole transition moving over to the Luka Doncic era, this has just been a masterclass of a season, and he's 40.
And it's a masterclass in leadership too.
Yeah.
Being able to adjust through those periods, and particularly this new addition of Luka Doncic, you could have said that it wouldn't have worked, especially the way he was rolling in February. Yeah. And now to see the both of them, coexisting beautifully, it's unfair for the rest of the league.
It's fun though. It's cool. I mean, the Lakers all of a sudden they became such, and not that they weren't even good, but now they're so compelling.
Rolling. That's what I'm saying. Exactly.
Yeah, but now they're so compelling. They're so fun to watch. I mean, Luka blocks a 3-pointer, gets the own rebound, falling out of bounds, bounces off the guy's head, and then points the other direction, and the crowd is going wild. And you can just see, like, LeBron is loving this too. It's awesome. Lakers games are just an extravaganza again.
It's the
Lakers are back. Yeah, the Lakers are back. Speaking of back, I gotta admit something to you guys. Sometimes we have to change the show up based on, what happens. We thought our game of the night was going to be Warriors-Knicks. It's this new Warriors team is their first real test against a real good team. And then Karl Anthony Towns is out. Okay, well, you know what? The Knicks are still really good. Okay. Well, the Warriors won that game. They're 9-1 with Jimmy Butler, but way less compelling than what became our game of the night. The Phoenix Suns. They were absolutely pathetic, to quote Stan Van Gundy. Their defense was pathetic to start this game. They were down, 18 at the halftime. They were down as much as 23. And they came back, Zena, because they're not as pathetic as we thought. They showed a lot of grit. 119, 117. They picked up the win. And I think we're going to start in the oddest place we could possibly start. Because when you've got, remember, they started the year. This is the second biggest payroll in sports, right? It was $409 million to start the year. So who do you think the hero of this game is? Of course, it's the two-way player.
Exactly. You would think
Colin
it's one of those people pushing up that payroll.
Yeah. You know what's nice, man? Look, when you're a two-way player, it's March. You're not on the opposing team scouting report. Colin Gillespie came in, scored 10 points in the fourth, help build that comeback. But Zena, look, they've got an opportunity. They are 3 games back of the Mavericks. The Mavericks season looks like it's done. They have to play better than they played in the first half of this game. But I think the signs of life that we saw in the second half, it's worth being a little bit optimistic about. That's a positive.
Absolutely. But I think we all know that Phoenix has the material. Right. Phoenix has the tools and the components. It's about being able to execute and being able to put it all together, right? I mean, everyone saw that first half. If you looked at social media during the midst of that game, everyone was ripping on Phoenix. And also everyone was dissecting Phoenix, looking at every little interaction on the court, on the bench, figuring out like, this team is done. There's no chemistry. They're not playing hard. They're not competitive, etc. Everyone saw it. It was as if they went in the locker room in the second half. Maybe in the third quarter, someone passed out phones and was like, you see what they're saying about you? You see what they're saying? They're saying that you're not competitive, that you don't want to win a championship. This is what they're saying. And then they specifically said, and Colin, they don't think you're worth the $409 million that's been on this roster. Like, let's figure it out. And they came out like re-energized. It was actually really encouraging and inspiring, but it still leaves the question of what is the culture of Phoenix? What do they stand under? Because it was funny when Stan Van Gundy said that this team is pathetic. The very next line was due to a turnover by the play-by-play announcer he said, and that's Clippers basketball. It made me immediately go, what's Phoenix basketball?
That's a great question, Zena. Well, I don't want to be the guy who goes to the leadership thing because we've already done that this year with Kevin Durant. I mean, we did a whole podcast about it because other people talked about the leadership. It's not a leadership issue. It is an identity issue, though.
That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking. What do they look like out there on the court?
Look, they fire their coach, and they fire Frank Vogel. They bring in Mike Budenholzer. And I'm not sure what they really expected him to be able to do. Like there's a roster construction issue, of course, like Yusuf Nurkic didn't work out for them. Right. Bradley Beal hasn't been, that addition hasn't worked out for them as well. But just the lack of just compete. just not working hard defensively has been odd. Like, who is their leader on the court? I think KD does lead this team, and he leads them by example. But like, they need someone, and not to say every team needs a Draymond Green or a Dillon Brooks, but don't they need a guy like with a little bit of edge or something?
If anything, what they need is a brand to fall back on. So that regardless of if they had a guy, if that guy's not playing well, if that guy gets ejected, if that guy is just not available for that night, they still can fall back on whatever that brand is. So for example, the Clippers can fall back on their defense, right? They can fall back on their ability to get in passing lanes and things of that sort, deflections, etc. You can go around the association and say, even if your stars aren't playing, this is what you can expect out of this team. And I think that right now, if Kevin Durant's not playing well, or if Devin Booker's not playing well, or if Bradley Beal's not playing well, I don't know what it is that Phoenix falls back on.
That's
what's missing.
Their identity is they're the team that doesn't play that hard and sometimes gets blown out a little bit. And then they will just flip the switch and hit 10 straight shots, right? They can hit 10 jump shots in a row.
They can score. They can absolutely score.
That's their calling card. But that's the thing that we held them up to a high, like we basically said, this team, when it gets to the playoffs, is going to be tough to beat because Booker and Beal and obviously Kevin Durant, they can all hit the mid range. They can all hit the three. They can all get to the basket. But they don't have the pieces around them to even get you there. So, man, that's a great point, Zena. I love that. A team with no identity, but they got a big win. And by the way, look, crazier things have happened than a team that has guys like Kevin Durant and Devin Booker making a playoff run out of the play-in. Like, we've seen teams make it from the play-in to the finals. What if they did it? Be a great story. Anyway, guys, stick around after the break. I sat down with Christian Clark and we were sad. With the news of Kyrie Irving's ACL tear, we had to bring Christian Clark back out to commiserate. Christian, the snake-bitten season just won't stop for the Mavericks. Obviously, we all saw, Kyrie going up for a layup, hyperextended the knee, and then he goes and shoots the free throws. It was extremely emotional. I'm sure, it was for you there watching it. What's the immediate fallout around the team with Kyrie's injury? And I guess, when's he going to have surgery?
Yeah, I was sitting super close to the court when it happened. I mean, it was very emotional. He immediately knew something was wrong. He immediately signaled, hey, I need medical attention. It looked like his teammates were going to help him into the tunnel. They kind of wheeled back around. He made those 2 free throws and then he left the court. They called it a knee sprain and you could tell right away. It's like, it's probably something worse than a knee sprain. Medical imaging confirmed torn ACL. I think the outlook for this team is, when they made the Luka Doncic for Anthony Davis trade, Nico Harrison went on the record and says, look, we've got a 3 to 4 year window. I don't care about 10 years from now, but we've got 3 to 4 years here to contend. And Kyrie Irving's left knee injury not only erases one of those years, it likely erases 2 of those years from that contention window. This is something that's likely going to impact him into next season if we're talking about a 9 to 12 month recovery timeline.
Yeah, and that's just to get back on the court. We know from experience with these guys, it usually is an 18-month process for a guy to be back to his normal self. And you're talking about Kyrie Irving, who by that point is going to be like 35 years old coming back from an ACL. So, in my opinion, when they made this trade, it was a 2-year window. And I think actually that 2-year window kind of just went out the window. How do they pivot? I guess this season, they still are the 10 seed in the West. They're fighting, I'm assuming, to stay in the play-in. We're waiting on an update from all of the injured centers that they've got. So, what is the immediate future for the Dallas Mavericks?
There's not a good pivot move forward. It's just go with what you got and try to get the 10 seed. They got a 3.5 game lead over the Suns. It's a pretty big lead with 20 games to play, but I could definitely see them getting past at this point. There's just not really any hope for them in the postseason. I think one of the obvious effects of the Luka Doncic trade was this puts an enormous creation load on Kyrie Irving, who's going to turn 33 years old later this month. I think it's just a lot of responsibility on the court, but I think the other factor was it's a lot of wear and tear on his body too. He was averaging 39 minutes per game in his 10 games before he got hurt. I mean, that's just a huge workload on a guy who's, I mean, obviously a brilliant basketball player, but has not been the most durable guy in his career. He's not the biggest guy either. I mean, Luka was just a tank. Luka was a workhorse. I mean, you could just give him the ball so many possessions and you can count on him for 70 games every year. And it's like, he's going to be good just because he was so big. I mean, he's built like an SEC tight end. Like Kyrie is not built like that. You know, he's just not been as durable in his career. And I mean, this was beyond unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, look, and it's a freak play, right? Like Kyrie Irving has shot, I don't know, millions of layups and just things happen. What's the latest on Anthony Davis? I mean, he's still out with that adductor issue. I mean, is he doing 3-on-3 or is he doing any basketball stuff? I know that they're going to update us on Thursday.
So yeah, I asked Jason Kidd, you know, the Mavericks first practice after the All-Star break, hey, what's going on with AD? Have you guys ruled out surgery? His answer at the time was, no, we have not ruled out surgery. He said, we're going to give you guys an update on March 6th. So that means on Thursday, we should have an update on Anthony Davis, Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively. Anthony Davis was with the team on their most recent road trip, doing the lightest of shooting possible. And I'm saying he wasn't even leaving his feet on any of his shooting jumpers. I mean, to me, he did not look like a guy who was especially close to being back. And I do think it's fair to wonder, does Kyrie's injury impact, you know, AD and if he tries to make a return this year? Because at this point, it's like, for what?
Just shut it down, right?
You're going to try to rush back for what?
Yeah, I mean, and also, I mean, if they can fall into the lottery, they still have their pick, right? I mean, and this is a team that's drafted well. I mean, Derek Lively obviously was a later pick. I don't think that that's outside the realm of possibility. How would the fans, you know, who've had already, I mean, so many things dumped on them between the Luka, you know, rug pull and now and AD's injury and now Kyrie's injury and the rise in the season ticket prices. How would they handle just tanking the rest of the season?
I think they would probably understand it. I mean, It's like, what more can you do? I mean, we were redlining Kyrie and he tore his ACL. I mean, if that's not a sign to just kind of punt, I don't know what is. I mean, It's kind of amazing. I mean, all of this has unfolded in about 10 weeks. On December 23rd, the Mavericks beat the Trailblazers at home. Kyrie and Luka both played in that game. They were 19-10. They had a number 4 offense and the number 11 defense. You know, kind of a profile of, they might not have been the favorites to come out of the West. Like, there's probably OKC all year long, but like, they had a profile of, this can be a contending team. 2 days later on Christmas, Luka left calf strain, and then they kind of kicks all this off. You know, the trade is early February, and then this Kyrie thing. And it's like, it's a scenario where in a matter of 10 weeks, it's like you had a great short-term outlook and a great long-term outlook, and now you have neither of those things.
Yeah, look, this team went to the finals last year. I think that they had a great shot to make the finals again. And this now, obviously, we're on a whole different trajectory. So what do they do this summer? You know, they're going to be looking at a season without Kyrie Irving next year. AD potentially maybe having surgery, but you assume he'd be healthy to start next season. They got Daniel Gafford. They've got Derek Lively. It feels like maybe one of those guys is going to have to be included in a trade if this team wants to be competitive next season.
It's going to be really interesting to see. I mean, Kyrie Irving has a player option for, I think, about $46 million. You know, what kind of deal is he going to sign? Will he align himself contractually with Anthony Davis, who's got 2 more years after this, plus a player option? Will he just take the most money possible and go for 5 years? I mean, will he just take the player option? I genuinely don't know at this point.
Do you think they would offer him a 5-year deal with the ACL at his age? I mean,
that's a great question.
If they were hesitant with Luka, right, and they're saying, you know, all of the stuff that we've heard, right, all of the spin coming out of Dallas, we didn't think his long-term outlook was great. We didn't believe in his health. We didn't believe he was going to take his fitness seriously. And now you've got Anthony Davis, who is 31 years old and obviously injury prone, and you're going to have 33 going into 34-year-old Kyrie Irving coming off an ACL. That just doesn't seem like a great investment. I mean, if they're actually telling the truth that they didn't feel like they could pay Luka Doncic, seems like that same thing would pop up for Kyrie now.
And look, that's what people were saying like minutes after they made the trade. It's like, you know, you guys don't want to invest in this guy. And I think, you know, The Athletic has reported they had concerns about Luka's availability long term. It's like, yeah, but we're building this around 2 guys with worse injury histories than Luka. Luka, he's in there 65 plus games every single year. I mean, until this year, he'd never missed a double-digit amount of games consecutively. It just didn't make sense in the time. And now it feels like they are almost going to be forced in the situation where it's like, I think they have to pay Kyrie, because it's like, what else do you have in terms of ball handling? Without Luka, it's Spencer Dinwiddie. It's Jaden Hardy.
Yeah.
Like Najee Marshall got to start at point guard, at one point. Like there's just not like the creation that you would want. Maybe that's something they can address with the trade this summer. But it feels like they got to do something to just add more on-ball creation to this roster in time for next year.
Well, let's talk about, in my opinion, the Hall of Famer in the room, Kevin Durant. We heard right after the deadline that they would love to get him there. Him and Kyrie would like to play together again. He checks some of those boxes. I personally think it's a weird fit if you don't have Kyrie, but is there a possibility that this drives Dallas to push harder to get KD this summer?
Yeah, from everything I've heard, Dallas has kind of downplayed this KD idea, but I totally get, why people see it. Team Nike, first of all. It was also kind of interesting that, right after they made the Luka trade, Kyrie talked about, hey, back in 2018, me, Kevin Durant, and Anthony Davis talked about playing together in Boston. He said, we wanted to be teammates in 2018. That was something that Kyrie brought up on his own, in the days right after the trade, which I thought was kind of interesting. I guess KD helps you win, creator, score, but having to hollow out your depth to get there. Like the Mavericks' medium-sized salary pieces are Daniel Gafford, Klay Thompson, PJ Washington. Does that make you better if you are like getting rid of these good players in these medium-sized deals and bringing in KD?
Yeah, Klay is the guy that a lot of people point to as, that big contract that they would be able to move. But you got to find a team that's wants Klay Thompson at that money. And where does Klay Thompson fit? I don't know. Maybe they could send him to the Lakers for next to nothing.
That was one team he was looking at. I wonder if you gave Klay Thompson Trucer what he's thinking about these past 10 weeks.
Imagine, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure he was thinking, hey, I'm going to spend my mid to late 30s getting these sweet feeds from Luka Doncic. Like, this is a great basketball situation for me. And it's like, whoops, you played with him.
Now he's watching Dalton Connect do it. Luka's out there. Austin Reeves looks like Jerry West. It's insane. The Luka bump for the Lakers has just been, it's got to be infuriating for you to watch, Christian.
I got to cover Luka for 5-6 games, and I thought I was signing up for this for the long haul. Look, it's sickening to me to see Luka Doncic in purple and gold. It's like, how did the Lakers, end up with this? And when you just think about the sequence of events that led to this happening, it's like, okay, the Mavericks really wanted Anthony Davis. Well, why was Anthony Davis a Laker? Because LeBron James was a Laker. Why was LeBron James a Laker? Just because he wanted to spend the final chapter of his career in Los Angeles. A lot of this happened. The Mavericks never had to make this trade, and I don't think they should have, but a lot of this happened because LeBron James just decided, I just want to spend the last chapter of my career in Los Angeles.
The weather's amazing. I don't blame him. Christian Clark, thanks a lot, man. I appreciate you. Go and read Christian for all the fallout for this cursed season for the Mavericks. And of course, as they, start watching the lottery, man, Christian, get ready for some draft prospect work, buddy. You're going to have a great time. For Zena Keita, for Christian Clark, I'm Dave DuFour, and this has been the NBA Daily. Appreciate you guys listening. Thanks for waking up with us.